Yeah.
Oh my God.
It looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Apparently, if a fan catches a ball, that player's out. And they do like, it's like the, it's, they're kind of like the Globetrotters.
Yeah.
Except with baseball. Yeah.
Free ticket. Weird baseball.
Why not? More exciting than regular baseball.
Those were the days. Those were the days. Hence, the city has grown to a metro area.
I'm Kevin Wheeler.
COVID is over now, so you
Go, we can eat.
we can catch
We
up
can eat
now. We
again.
can catch up.
We can eat, release, or its equivalent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, you've been on the job around here a long time.
I started with the city as an intern in the historic preservation office in 1986.
Wow. That's 35 years, 36 years.
Yeah, the preservation at the time consisted of one officer and an intern. And
So, right after that, they were giving away grants to get to South Carolina and just beginning to
become
do more than the dog paddle at the deep end. Well, I'm interested to hear your presentation.
I will try to be concise but informative and look forward to any questions.
You always are, so what?
Same day. Monday, the webinar? Oh, great.
Okay.
It's been a long time. Yeah. Not quite that far back. I did, I was going through some HR thing. I think I was promoted at one point or something. Sitting through the, making you do your background check. I was sitting here the whole time. Okay, I'll do it again. And you could write, you could make sure I was done it. And I was with this woman who was new to our department. And as we compared notes, I started with the year she was born.
It's a nasty feeling.
Yeah, and that's been a while.
I look around my drafting room now and I feel like Father Time. I'm gonna have to get one of these. Are you having a good day today? Don't cool off. Cool off on Saturday night. Kay mentioned good ideas. Maybe another day.
Go outside.
That would be wonderful.
The class is outside.
Yeah.
For this,
Are we connected yet?
Amanda's downstairs.
We'll wait for a minute. Chris, for showing off those bands.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, no, we don't want anything that is why it's
Yes, I am. That would be two.
I'm by really fast. First world problems, but.
Then I asked him this question.
They go
How do
fast.
you just sort of get out of this rat race?
All right, we're gonna get started. Hit your button. Light up the green. Okay, we're gonna get started. I'd like to welcome you to the April 13th, 2023 Development Commission meeting. We will begin as usual with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag in the sunshine. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first order of business is a presentation on zoning, the new zoning code from Kevin Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair Fitzpatrick. Happy to be here. It's been a little while since I've been able to present to the Development Commission, and it's great to meet a couple of new members. I will try to be concise and then give you some time for questions, and I'm always around, and Shannon and the rest of the staff can help you find me if you do have questions. So this commission is uniquely positioned to understand the growth of the city. We grew by 120,000 people between 2010 and 2020, just the city itself. The region grew by about that same number beyond the city. Very strong economy. These pictures are from Intel and Honda and LG battery plant, Hyperion, BBI Logistics. And this economy is bringing more people to our region. And one of the obvious consequences of that is housing pressure and an increasingly significant shortfall of housing and rising housing costs. We've also seen over time that not all neighborhoods within the city have seen the same kind of vitality that the region as a whole has seen. And as we look at a future that's different, because we're growing, we're running out of space, we're going to be growing up more than out. And we've been looking at ways to manage our growth, different ways to really get ahead of it and figure out the best way of moving forward. And some of that work is Link Us around transit. We've been working with CODA, Warpsy, Franklin County, other partners on bringing bus traffic transit in the city. The mayor has come out with a housing strategy to address the housing shortfall, especially the affordable housing shortfall. Sustainable Columbus and the Climate Action Plan, looking at how do we have a sustainable, environmentally sustainable future. Insight 2050 was an effort to look as a region about how we grow, not just Columbus, but the whole region and our partners. And then Zone In is looking at zoning, and you guys, of course, know all about zoning. Let me see here. Oh, there we go. Okay. You're aware that in 2021, we had a assessment done of the code. And this is because the code hadn't been comprehensively updated since the 1950s. And, when you go back to the 1920s, when we first had zoning, I was telling Chair Fitzpatrick that there were 5 use districts, 4 height districts, the lowest of which was 50 feet. There was no parking requirement. The whole code was about 10 pages long. A lot's changed. A lot's changed from the 50s. And it's been that long since we've updated it comprehensively. It's been updated in pieces and parts since then. But the assessment determined the following key things. One is that the standards aren't tailored to local conditions. The code doesn't know the difference between Marion Village and Sawmill in 161. The code doesn't prioritize housing and transit needs equitably. As I'm going to talk here in a minute, there just are not the opportunities, especially for housing in our city, that we need if we're going to be growing and providing housing for the folks that are moving here and for our own children. And you don't have transit, better transit, which is consistently one of the things that we hear folks saying they want the most, without development patterns and support. Because of this, the fact that our code doesn't line up with much of how things happen today in the way of development patterns, and we have a reliance on site-by-site negotiated zoning activities. So 96% of council's actions on zonings result in a site-specific condition or negotiated condition. So, you never have the luxury of just looking at the map and the code. You always got to look at the ordinance. Because our decision-making process is complex, it creates a lot of uncertainty. People are confused by it, don't understand what's happening often. The code's not user-friendly. No zoning code probably is really user-friendly, but I think ours, with the exceptions and cross-references and all the different ways in which we've made it work, is really hard to navigate if you're not, a really experienced person or able to hire somebody who can help you navigate it. Ultimately, the determination is the zoning code isn't getting us where we need to go. If we're going to be an equitable, thriving city in the future. So, code's broken. But, okay, I feel like, there we go, it's a delay. Where to begin? It's a big city, 290,000 parcels, 225 square miles. You can't update a zoning code all at the same time. And so we're beginning with corridors. And what's so special about corridors, they're really the main streets of our community. If you look across the 36 area plans that our community has adopted, working with residents, they all point to the main streets in their neighborhoods. The West Broads, the East Mains, the High Streets, the Cleveland Avenues. These are the main streets of our community. These are places where we believe we have an opportunity to improve transit because of more supportive development patterns, provide housing options and jobs. These are places that have existing infrastructure and services, and that can accommodate a mix of uses, whether that's side by side or in the same building. These are places that either are pedestrian friendly or can be made more walkable because of the development pattern that we can pursue. It's not a new idea. That picture on the bottom right is Mount Vernon Avenue in 1960. It was taken by Kojo Kamano, for those of you who have run across his name or maybe knew him. And, I look at that picture and the vitality that represents, and I think, that's what we all want our main streets to look like. So it's not a new idea. The picture on the upper right is River and Ridge, just across the Sayva in East Franklinton. Also mixed use, both within the buildings and then on the site more broadly. We know that this development pattern is more environmentally sustainable, it's more cost effective, but our current zoning code presents a lot of barriers to getting to this kind of development pattern happening. And so our code update is going to be focusing on housing and commercial uses, as well as standards for such things as parking and building design. So which corridors? We want to start with corridors because we can't start everywhere, which ones? And so we began looking at public transit, both currently with CODA's standard and frequent service routes. We looked at the Lincus corridors, where they're going to be. We have 3 actively underway: Northwest, West Broad, and East Main. We looked at where our plans recommend mixed use in particular, and we looked at where we have existing commercial zoning overlays. For those of you who are familiar with the urban commercial overlay in particular, that's an acknowledgement that the underlying base code doesn't work for an urban environment. I remember before that code was developed, we would routinely see buildings within the older portion of the community, the pre-1950s portion of the city, demolished and be replaced with suburban context buildings, because that's what the code required. You had to get a variance to build buildings to the street. So that's what the overlays have come in to help rectify. We look at existing zoning, and then we look at site level considerations, things like, is it a cemetery or Ohio State? Is it property, or is it an area rather, where there's development potential. We looked at the Continent and Eastland Mall as examples of two locations where if we can bring some new resources, new tools in the realm of zoning to those sites, we will get that. So this map represents our initial focus area. And you can go online, I'll share the website later, and you can see a more detailed map that goes down to the parcel level. But these are areas where we're focusing on corridors and nodes, primarily along the frontage. It's about 145 miles on total, if you count both sides, 11,500 parcels. And what we have learned as we've looked at these areas is that we do feel like these are the best places to start as we do this work to update the code. We're not stopping here, but we are starting here. After we go through this work, it's our hope that some of the tools that we're going to be developing, some of the district work that we're going to be doing, will have application beyond these corridors, but these are where we need to start. And we will be working in other areas of the city as we begin, as we continue through the rest of the code. So we're going to be doing additional analysis and community engagement on these areas as we move forward, so you're hearing more about this. And I just want to emphasize, it's a start, not an answer. By the numbers, I just said 145 miles of corridor, mentioned the number of plans already and parcels, dozens of base zoning districts, nearly 1,000 variances. This is probably one of the few bodies where that's not, you're not surprised by that. But 1,000 variances tells you something. Tells you that, hey, it's time to look at the base code. When we looked at these corridors, 80% of them have a height limit of 35 feet. So the most important corridors in the biggest city in Ohio have the same height limit as single-family neighborhoods. Another 80%, not the same 80% necessarily, have restricted residential, either no residential on the ground floor or no residential at all. And I think that a lot of that pattern of ground floor retail or commercial residential above it relies on a development pattern and frankly a retail and shopping pattern that is no longer applicable. You think about how long it's taken the short north to fill in between one of the biggest campuses in the United States and downtown. That condition cannot be replicated in all the other corridors. And so we have to be thinking about other land uses, not just retail and commercial on the ground floor. So these are some of the things that we've observed and that we've looked at as we've delved into these places and these corridors. Next steps and timeline. Again, no recommendations at this point. There are no zoning proposals. There's no secret zoning proposal. These are areas that we feel like we want to give attention to first. For the remainder of the year, we'll be doing additional analysis. We'll be doing community engagement. We do have an advisory committee that we meet with to get feedback from and help us understand how best perhaps to share the information and seek out input from folks. We're going to be working in particular to reach groups that are often missing from this discussion. As we've looked at our history of engagement as a city, and that's not unique to Columbus, it is not representative of our city as a whole. And we need to do a better job of hearing from folks who might not come to a meeting like this. We also really, want to see, as we're working as hard as possible to bring proposed updates early in 2024. So, depending on who you're talking to, that seems like forever away, but this is incredibly complex work. And, this is a goal, there's an imperative from the mayor, from the council president, that we do this work thoughtfully, but also efficiently, so that we can do whatever is possible to move the city forward. And we know that it's not just about creating opportunities for density, it's also about what that looks like, the form it takes. That means that we're talking about things like design, building design, not just height, not just parking, because it all goes together. Later phases, we will look at the neighborhoods. We'll go beyond the corridors and we'll look at the neighborhoods. And everyone would say that any changes that we would take to to council, we'll do notice. I'm sure there'll be hearings, and council has to approve anything that we change. There's a lot more information we could talk about in weeds. We did a webinar on Monday, and I was pleased that at least one of you were able to watch that. And we do have a website now that is a little slicker than our old one. So it might not look like much, but there's a lot that goes into getting a website up and running. So take a look at it. We have more resources there. The handout that I shared with you has that website on it. And I could talk for a lot longer, but you got a whole room of folks who are waiting to have cases considered. So I'll stop. And if you have questions or observations, I'll do my best.
I have one observation. Many of the cases, as in case number 1 here tonight, probably 4 of the 7 or 5 of the 7 cases will have the comment that concurrent variance requests will be heard by city council separate from what we do is land use appropriateness. And so there's a split kind of two-tined fork here where we do part of it for appropriate land use, and then it goes to city council, and the nuances are carried out in variances to deal with the 35-foot height limit and other factors that make a project work. So I think that's one area where this is really going to streamline what we do.
I think that council variances, Shannon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, council variances now outnumber rezonings. This is a trend that we've tracked.
Yeah.
And, we view this as a reflection of the code's disconnect.
Good. Comment?
I do have a couple. We're not going to have the density of Manhattan. Not going to happen. But, the corridors that existed before and the restoration of those by the overlays, they're all focused on the street, and how it touches the residential stuff behind it is more critical now. We know how to do the first part. The back end is huge, and that stuff has to be the buffer. And
Sure.
Once you start throwing the height up, then you got to take care of the sun and the environment behind it. And just based on capitalism and it's, my plot of land and I can do with it what I want, you're going to have to eat into some of the residential stuff to make anything work behind it. Parking or green space or community gardens, all that sort of stuff that hangs along with it. And I just implore you to make sure that you're getting the whole thing rather than solving the housing problem. Then the just second one is, we're going to have this huge change. We've already had it. There's a lot of vacant office space. We've got a lot of tall buildings downtown that are, they're not, I don't want to be a gadfly or anything, but they may not fill back up. So instead of taking up single family stuff that's, land bank or whatever to do housing, why aren't you, isn't there some incentive to look at some of the office buildings?
I appreciate that. I think most of you know that the downtown zoning district, which has been in place for a long time now, provides it has no height limit, no parking requirement. It allows every use, at least every use that's reasonable in the downtown. And to be clear, I think we recognize the interplay between these corridors and neighborhoods on the other side of the alley. If there is an alley, in many cases there isn't. I think if you think about, what happened to the old Andersons at the northeast corner of 161 and Sawmill Road, it's now a 400-unit apartment development. You think about what happened to the Kmart at Old Tanger River and Bethel, it's now an apartment development. I think our feeling is that in many of these cases, we have suburban contexts where these centers, maybe not next year, maybe not in 10 years, but we're doing work that is going to have impact over decades, will shift in land use. And we need to be thinking about what are the alternative ways that they can develop. even perhaps incrementally. And I think as we look at the main corridors of Cleveland Avenue and South Linden, most of that is zoned apartment residential office, ARO. Apartments and residential are great, but the minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet. There's not a single lot in that corridor that's 20,000 square feet. So I think that your point is an important one, that these corridors have lots of different conditions and some of them are pretty tight. And you gotta be thoughtful with that.
I would, I made this comment on Monday and I want to kind of circle back around to it today. I do understand, with everything that's going on, Intel, you have a picture of that. Want to make sure that we're not forgetting to ensure there are routes for everyone in the city to get to those types of jobs. We don't want to create, yet again, some more disparity by not doing that. So I mentioned this on Monday, but I really want to reiterate today that I think it is very important that since you are working with that system, that you do ensure that there are ways that individuals can get to from their places of employment.
And Commissioner, you're speaking specifically about transportation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know you're kind of saying that you're working with transportation. So, these are in housing areas, so we want to make sure that individuals are able to get those
Sure.
types of jobs.
Sure, and I know that Chair Conroy and I have talked about this. I know she's a short north person. One of the things that's unique about the densest part of the city is that you go there almost any time except for Gallery Hall, and there's not a traffic problem. And it is the easiest area to serve in terms of transit. And I think that what that tells us is that when you have a mix of uses, you can support transit, and you don't have to get in your car to do everything. And therefore, those people who do aren't competing with everybody else. But to your point, we've been working with the Linkus folks from the beginning. And what the Linkus folks are imploring is, hey, when can you get the zoning code done? Because we need density that supports this investment. Anything else before?
Yes, okay.
Yes, nice presentation, by the way. My question is, in the process of revitalizing all these corridors, which is great because we want to increase the density, the side effect has always been displacement of those who were already there.
Sure.
How best do you think the zoning could be used to make sure that those who are already there, especially the elderly, are still around instead of revitalizing the entire corridor, and then you only see young people? Because I think the mixture of age and income would really help in the revitalization process.
Yeah, this is a question that we think about a lot, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it's on a lot of people's minds. I think the first thing we have to recognize is zoning is only one piece of the puzzle, and it can only take us so far. Displacement happens now without change to the zoning code, and one of the things that we've seen in looking at neighborhoods that have seen disinvestment is that the zoning code can be a particular barrier to smaller scale developers, smaller scale independent businesses from being able to do something because of the barriers that zoning represents. If you want to use an old, a former grocery store, historic building, and you want to use it for a coffee shop, often you're prohibited unless you get parking variance. And for lots of folks, that's just not something that they are going to want to tackle. When it comes to housing, one of the challenges that we face is we don't have enough choices for housing in enough places. And so ultimately, we're going to have to come alongside things like zoning with investments around housing, affordability, and preservation of existing affordable housing. These are challenges that every city faces. But what we do know is that without this work, those conditions are here and becoming more of a challenge. And we need to engage.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Chair Fitzpatrick and the rest of the commission. I appreciate your time this evening. Okay.
You're good, done.
Oh, yeah. Lead the technical. Thanks, everyone.
You bet. Okay, we will now go to case number 1, Z22-071 400 East Campus View.
In your supplemental packet is a revised limitation text dated 4/13/23 with a revised fencing commitment. And there is an opposition email with 21 signatures as well. The site consists of one parcel developed as an office building in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. Requested LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District will permit the site to be redeveloped with a multi-unit residential development containing a maximum of 396 units. North of the site are single-unit dwellings in the SR Suburban Residential District. East of the site is a railroad right-of-way. South and west of the site are commercial buildings in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. Concurrent CB 22-093 has been filed and includes variances to parking, setback, and perimeter yard. And that request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Far North Area Plan, which recommends employee center land uses for the entire site. The site is also located within the boundaries of the Far North Columbus Community Coalition, whose recommendation is for approval. The limitation text includes a maximum dwelling unit count of 396 units and includes 2,000 square feet of common space. That includes office and co-working space and supplemental development standards that address building height, building setbacks, perimeter yard, traffic access and improvements, fencing, tree preservation, landscaping, and graphics provisions. The text also includes a commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan. The requested LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District will permit a multi-unit residential development with a maximum of 396 units. While the proposed LAR1 district is inconsistent with the Far North Area Plan's recommendation of employment center, the proposed building includes dedicated space for office and co-working uses, providing a mixed-use component that is more consistent with the recommended land use. The site plan includes a central amenity and gathering space consistent with design guidelines that suggest open or common space relate to the principal buildings. While there is parking proposed between the building and Campus View Boulevard, the grade change between the two provides a level of screening as a mitigating factor in the design layout. The Department of Public Service has the following open comments regarding this request. It would appear that the addition of right-of-way dedication would be required to satisfy the Columbus Multimodal Thoroughfare Plan, which requires 50 feet from the center line of East Campus View Boulevard, and that the proposed site layout would include a parking areas conflicting with that requested additional right-of-way. The site layout will either need to be revised or show the required additional right-of-way, or an exemption can be requested. The site layout will need to be revised to show sidewalk connections between all proposed buildings and the existing sidewalk network along East Campus View Boulevard. Upon addressing those previous comments to the satisfaction of the Department of Public Service, our city recommendation can be full approval.
Have those changes been put down on paper yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, let's ask Dan, traffic.
The traffic impact study has been approved for this application, and necessary commitments have been incorporated into the limitation text. My understanding is that the applicant has found a way to revise the site plan to address the open comments that we still have.
All right, sidewalks, have they been part of that as well?
That's my understanding, is that their updated plan will show the necessary sidewalk connections.
All right, Kathy.
We have no comments.
Okay, Chris.
No further comments.
Okay, are there any speakers with case number 1 today? One speaker? Okay, Dave, do you want to add anything to the staff's presentation?
Yes, a few things. My name is Dave Perry. I'm here as agent for the Champion Companies. This project started several months ago with a request for the AR2 district, and then through various design work and consultation with the Christopher Woods Civic Association, the Far North Coalition, and city staff, it is the project before you today. 396 units, generally as depicted on the screen. This site, I want to digress just a little bit, Mr. Chairman. This site was zoned CPD in the 1981 Crosswoods zoning. So we are 40 plus years, 42 years from when this was owned, and Crosswoods was pre-Polaris, pre-Easton, pre-Tuttle, pre-lots of things. And the US 23 I-270 interchange was viewed as a major commercial development at the time. A lot of things happened since then, and it hasn't quite played out as was thought. There have been various rezonings since then that have zoned portions of Crosswoods to residential. There have been extended stay hotel developments permitted under the existing commercial zoning that are residential uses. So there's very much of a trend at Crosswoods for residential redevelopment rather than the concept 42 years ago. So we met with, this started with Far North Coalition, and then the neighborhood to the north is called Christopher Woods. We've met twice with Christopher Woods, twice with FNCCC, and some good input of both was certainly obtained. And this is a better project than it started out as with the proposal. So the other thing on the existing zoning that is a factor in my mind when I look at these is that really what this zoning is about is ground level residential use. Because the CPD permits C2 uses, C2 allows apartments over a ground level office use. So the real nut of the zoning issue here is this is an apartment complex because it's all residential, but this isn't. But the residential aspect can occur anyway under the existing zoning. It would just be in a different form. So along the way, I changed it to the limited AR1. There's a development text committing to a good number of things that were the result of the discussions with Christopher Woods and the Far North Coalition, and that resulted in the Far North Coalition vote on April 4th, almost unanimously in support, and very positive discussions with Christopher Woods. This, the green strip at the top of the screen, top of the site plan, that is what the current zoning ordinance requires, 35-foot landscape setback. We had a tree survey done. There's a lot of nice trees in that 35 feet, and that limitation text commits to not only the 35 feet, but the preservation of the existing trees, planting of supplemental trees, and as recently as last Monday, I met at the site with some of the Christopher Woods neighbors about fence placement, and the development text commits to fence placement also. So there was, I think, Mr. Chairman, you touched on office uses, and Crosswoods is evolving considerably. Crosswoods has a higher office vacancy rate than citywide, and the office buildings built at Crosswoods are in that 40-year-old area, and it's at a transition time when it's changing to residential uses, and that's what we request tonight.
Okay, let's hear from our speaker, and then we may bring you back to the microphone. Sure.
Back on the screen. Yeah. Okay, so as I understand over here, and this is the where the Christopher Woods. That's where I.
First of all, could you give us your name for the record?
Oh, my name is Dilbag Crooner, and I'm here on behalf of Christopher Woods Homeowners Association.
Okay.
And with your permission, I'll go back here.
All right.
And so this is Christopher Woods over here, and these are single-story and two-story homes. And so we have no problem with the development. And but the first building that we'll see later on is 3-story high, and all of a sudden it's within feet of the single-story building. It overwhelms the whole neighborhood. And if you were able to go back, are you able to go back this way? Not. I have my own. Okay, so this is the same map that I go up to show. And so this is the same map when you go back to High Street. And this zoning board was faced with a similar question before. And this is a development called Central Park. And what they did and what you approved was the building that's closest to the single family home is 2-story high. And all the buildings beyond this have higher stories. So what we are requesting, that you can put back there, instead of there, yes, that yellow one, that one. So this is where I live. So what we are requesting is, so instead of having 3 stories here, if you can remove the top story and put extra stories here and here, they'll have the same, actually more rental units than they are proposing now. So they have no loss of income, but it architecturally is more better because you're going from single story homes to 2-story apartment buildings and then further to higher stories. So that's the only thing we request. That's exactly what the board did before, the exact same situation on the other side of the street.
All right,
That's all.
thank you. Okay, David, you heard the comments. Shifting density from the north to the south.
You know, the site can be redeveloped under the existing zoning at a 35-foot setback from the north property line for a 3-story building. 35 feet. So in the 2 meetings with Christopher Woods, that proposal didn't come up, although that proposal was not offered. And there was some concern about 5-story buildings with the FNCCC. So Champion said, okay, let's go back and rethink this, get it to the 3-story that can occur anyway. Make what was 5-story, there was a portion of this that was 5-story, 4-story, and do a setback that is much higher quality distance and buffer wise than can occur anyway. So I just want to point out to you, the setback on that, from that north property line is 110 feet to the closest point of the building. And that's, the 110 includes the 35-foot setback, it includes the tree preservation. There's a lot of nice mature trees in that. And then those Christopher Woods houses they vary a bit, but they're in the 40 to 60 feet from the property line. So the perception of a 3-story, we're talking about the perception of a 3-story building that can occur much closer anyway at 150 to 170 feet through a mature buffer of trees. I don't think 3 stories is a lot for the circumstances.
Okay, you mentioned fences as well along this area. Tell me what you came up with there.
Commitment at the second Christopher Woods meeting and at the second Far North Coalition meeting to provide a 6 to 8 foot privacy fence. And it was left open as to whether it would be 6 feet or 8 feet and exactly where. And the reason for that is from the approximately where the curb line would be of that north parking, the grade at the west end of the site, the grade drops a lot, 4 or 5 feet into the yards of Christopher Woods. So to put an 8-foot fence at the north property line that is 3 to 4, maybe 5 feet lower than the site grade doesn't accomplish much. The grade is a little more even as you go east, and Champion had genuine concern about preserving the trees, as did Christopher Woods. So I didn't try to specify that it would go on the property line because we don't know what's there. And then after my site visit this past Monday, that wouldn't be a good thing because one of the neighbors that met with us pointed out just a fabulous oak tree that's right on the property line, and there would be no desire to take it down. So the fence, the conclusion of that meeting was that due to the grade change and sight lines for the first floors of the houses, 6 feet would be okay at the curb line of the north parking. Houses are lower. We don't know, this project is, civil has been involved, traffic impact study approved, sanitary capacity study approved, and so on. But it's transitioning to civil work as we head into the site compliance plan process. And so the limitation text has two standards. If the fence is within 1 to 3 feet of the north curb line of the parking, it'll be 6 feet because of the sight line cutoff. If it ends up having to be lower for some reason, utilities or whatever reason, then it goes to 8 feet.
All right, in the history of the commission, as long as I've been on it, the logic that if you're sitting on the patio of a single family house right now, today, you're looking at some trees and an office building. When this is all changed, you're sitting on that same patio, you're going to see a fence down low and a canopy of some trees above. There's not going to be a lot of privacy loss because of the distance between the new work. So I think you've crafted a reasonable approach to handling the actual unique qualities of the site. Does anybody else have a comment?
I'll give if you will, Mr. Chairman, I'll give the commission two other examples. The pool was originally designed on the original layout at the north wall of the building. Christopher Wood said, "Hey, can you put the pool somewhere else, just for noise and sight lines and so on?" Champion and right away said, "We'll figure out how to put it in the middle of the apartment buildings," and that's done and reflected on the site plan. There was, as I've worked with Tom Warner, the dumpster boxes have turned into compactors, 2 compactors, and Champion has said, "Okay, put them in the center also." So there's been a lot of effort to make this have better standards than the current zoning, buffer the north, and address dumpster locations and pool and so on with this project.
I think it makes good common sense. But any more comment or suggestions? Okay, I need a motion to include the April 13th, 2023 text and site plan as part of this presentation. So second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Now I need a motion to vote.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Do you know the average height of those existing trees?
Oh, yeah, they're, some of them are surely 50 feet or more. There's a mix of evergreen and deciduous in the development text. It's not completely continuous. So I've added to the development text for additional plantings, and that would be worked in where there's gaps. Yeah.
I have one other.
One more question.
As far as walkability of this to retail shopping, et cetera, it's not, where are the signals? Where are the traffic signals, and how do you get across Campus View?
One of the staff conditions was was showing all the internal pedestrian walks that are required anyway with the zoning code. But I sent Daniel Moorhead a plan today where the civil engineer has addressed the internal walks and the right of way. So everything is connected on the site, and a private walk goes to the Campus View sidewalk. Campus View has sidewalks, and to the west, there is a traffic signal at Campus View and Crosswoods Boulevard.
So at that little box in the site plan, that's site access, that's where that happens. Lower left corner?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not, it looks to me like you're walking across the driveway.
Oh, no, there are 2 parcels that are for sale. One is the big one, the major one, and then there's a very small parcel that includes the driveway cut and the existing campus view driveway cut. I have left that out of the zoning because I want that to stay zoned commercial because it is a common access point for the commercial use to the west. But the driveway, the current driveway, there'll be a little bit of modification to the current driveway as a result of the TIS, but there'll be connection to the campus view walk, so crossing there, signal at Crosswoods Boulevard, and restaurants and other things are to the west.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we're now ready for a motion to vote on this.
I can remember what I said. I move that we bring case number 1 to a vote.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, please call the roll.
Janice Keith Shanklin,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Teo Mukwe,
Yes.
David Carey,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved, 7-0. Okay, let us move on to case number 2. Z23-003, 3573 Agler Road.
In your supplemental packet is a revised limitation text dated 4/7/23 with a revision to the permitted uses and the Northeast Area Commission recommendation of approval. The 28.38 acre site consists of 4 undeveloped parcels that were zoned in the LN Limited Manufacturing District by Ordinance 1342-2022. The existing LN district included a commitment to develop the site in accordance with a submitted site plan. The applicant has made changes to the proposed layout of the buildings and landscaping commitments, thus requiring a new LM district. North of the site are single-unit dwellings in the PUD8 Planned Unit Development District, an apartment complex in the AR1 Apartment Residential District, and a gas station or a gas utility building in the LC4 Limited Commercial District. East of the site are single-unit dwellings in a religious facility in the R Rural District in Mifflin Township, and across Stelzer Road are undeveloped lots in the Urban Residential District in Mifflin Township. West and south of the site are office warehouse developments in the LM Limited Manufacturing District. Concurrent CB 23-006 proposes parcel lines to divide parking spaces, maneuvering areas, and permits required parking spaces and loading spaces to be located on separate parcels from the use they serve. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is subject to the I-670 graphics control overlay and is located within the boundaries of the Port Columbus Joint Economic Development Strategy, which recommends office land uses at this location. The site is also located within the boundaries of the Northeast Area Plan, which recommends office light industrial land uses for this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northeast Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. The limitation text proposes all commercial and less objectionable manufacturing uses and includes supplemental development standards addressing lot coverage, site access, and parking arrangements, and includes commitments to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plans, landscaping plan, and building elevations. The requested LM Limited Manufacturing District will allow commercial or industrial development that is compatible with the land use recommendations of both the Northeast Area Plan and Port Columbus Joint Economic Development Strategy. The applicant has provided site plans, a landscape plan, and building elevations that are generally consistent with both plans' design guidelines, specifically with the addition of the sidewalk along Egler Road, the placement of parking spaces in the rear of Building 2, and limiting traffic access to Egler Road only. The requested LM district does not add any new uses to what was already approved by Ordinance 1342-2022, and therefore City Department's recommendations for approval.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments? Dan, traffic?
Nothing to add to the staff report.
Okay. Kathy?
No additional comments?
And Chris?
No additional comments.
Okay, anything you want to add to the presentation?
David Hodge, attorney for the applicant, happy to answer questions.
Okay, is there anyone here to speak on case number 2 tonight? No one's here. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay, job well done, no questions. Need a motion to call the vote. Okay,
So I move for us to take the vote.
second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, please call the roll.
Maria Conroy.
Yes.
Amanda Golden.
Yes.
John Ingwerson.
Recused.
Dan Woodward.
Yes.
David Carey.
Yes.
Denise Keith Shanklin.
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Thank you all.
Case number 3. Z22-099, 3440 West Broad Street.
The site consists of part of 2 parcels developed with a commercial building, split zone in the C4 commercial district along West Broad Street and M manufacturing district at the rear. The requested M manufacturing district will permit vehicle storage and wholesaling at this location. Additionally, the site is within the boundaries of the West Broad Street Greater Hilltop Regional Commercial Overlay. To the north of the site is Community Shopping Center in the M manufacturing district. To the south is undeveloped land in the M manufacturing district, and to the east and west is a community shopping center in the C4 commercial and M manufacturing districts. Concurrent CV 22-159 has been filed and includes variances for driveway, landscaping and screening, and setback requirements. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The size within the planning area of the Hilltop Land Use Plan, which recommends mixed use 3, 45 dwelling units per acre land uses at this location. Plan also includes complete adoption of Columbus Citywide Plan Policies, C2P2 design guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Greater Hilltop Area Commission, whose recommendation has not been received at the time the staff report was finalized. The requested M manufacturing district will permit the existing commercial building to be used for vehicle storage and wholesaling. While the proposed M manufacturing district is inconsistent with the Hilltop Land Use Plan, recommendation of mixed use 3, a recommendation which supports commercial, institutional, and residential uses. The request conforms to existing conditions and is consistent with the existing zoning of the northern half of each parcel and does not include physical changes to the site. Therefore, City Department's recommendation is for approval.
Okay, any questions about that presentation? Dan, traffic issues?
Nothing to add to the staff report.
Kathy?
No additional comments?
And Chris?
No additional comments.
Okay, is there anyone here to speak regarding case number 3? No one's here to speak. Floor is yours.
Members of the commission, Don Plank, 411 East Town Street. I represent the applicant and answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Okay, homework is done. We're in good shape. We need.
Just for the record, you guys did get a recommendation from Greater Hilltop.
We did, and they had made requests of 3 conditions. I think, Rose, they may have corresponded to you, because I've seen some email back.
I had tried to reach out to the area commission for the formal recommendation form and any conditions that may have been included, because I know there were talks about maybe some additional conditions, but I had never heard anything back and I did not receive the form.
So
I knew you guys hadn't met.
And so what we've done, we've taken the 3 conditions that they've asked, and I can read through those, but they're part of the variance application.
So we don't.
So but we were handling their concerns in the
Right.
variance application.
As I said before tonight, we deal with land use and appropriateness, and the variances go downstream. Okay, who would like to make a motion to vote on this case?
I'll make a motion to vote.
Good man. Amanda, you're not getting into the game here. She's over there. Maria? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, please call the roll.
Amanda Golden.
Yes.
John Ingwerson.
Yes.
Teo Mukwe.
Yes.
David Carey.
Yes.
Denise Keith Shanklin.
Yes.
Maria Conroy.
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Thank you.
Okay, case number 4, Z22-0100, 1264 East Main Street.
The 0.09 acre site consists of one undeveloped parcel in the C4 commercial district. The applicant requests the ARO apartment office district to permit a multi-unit residential development. The ARO district permits unlimited residential density and limited commercial uses. North of the site is a single unit dwelling in the R3 residential district. South of the site is a mix of residential uses in the C4 commercial district. East of the site is a commercial building in the C4 commercial district. And west of the site is a mixed-use building in the C4 commercial district. Concurrent CB 22-160 has been filed and includes variances to setbacks, yards, lot coverage, clear vision triangles, dwelling unit tree, and a parking space reduction from 12 to 7 spaces. That request will be heard by City Council and must be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Near East Area Plan, which recommends higher density residential and mixed-use land uses at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Near East Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. The requested ARO apartment office district will permit a multi-unit residential development at this location. The request is consistent with the Near East Area Plan's recommendation for high-density residential mixed-use land uses at this location. The ARO district permits both multi-unit residential development and limited commercial uses, both of which are consistent with the mix of uses and zoning pattern along this portion of East Main Street, and therefore City Department's recommendation is for approval.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Dan, traffic.
We have no comments on this rezoning application.
Okay, Kathy
No comments.
and Chris.
No further comments.
Okay. Is anyone here to speak tonight regarding case number 4? No speakers. Anything you'd like to add to the presentation? Give us your name for the record.
My name is Jensen Guy, the owner and advocate.
Okay.
I'm Ted Goodman, the Mr. Kai's architect.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the staff's presentation?
We have nothing to add and would welcome questions on the application.
Questions? Comments?
Just a comment, it's a nice infill piece. Nicely done.
Okay, I hate to move through these things so fast, but I will take, okay, Amanda, would you like to make a motion to vote on this? Okay, and
I second it.
Maria,
Great.
okay. And we've all got an oar in the water. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, please call the roll.
John Ingerson,
Yes.
Taylor Woodward,
Yes.
David Carey,
Yes.
Denise Keith Shanklin,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Getting through these things so fast, I can't keep up. Case number 5, Z22-092, 5142 Central College Road.
In your supplemental packet is one letter of opposition that was received. The site consists of 3 parcels, 2 of which are pending annexation from Plain Township, zoned in the R rural district, and developed with single unit developments. Applicant proposes to develop the site as a multi-unit residential development containing a maximum of 216 units in the LAR1 limited apartment residential district. The north, east, and west of the site is a single and multi-unit residential development in the NC Gateway Center District. To the south, across Central College Road, are single-unit dwellings in Plain Township and multi-unit residential developments in the LAR1 limited apartment residential district and L4 limited commercial district. Concurrent CB 22-141 has been filed to vary building height, maneuvering, parking space size, minimum number of parking spaces required, lot area, and perimeter yard. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is located within the boundaries of the Rocky Fork Black Lake Fork Plan, which recommends neighborhood-centered land uses for this location. The plan also recommends 5 units per acre with a bonus density of 8 units per acre at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Rocky Fork Black Lake Fork Panel, whose recommendation is for approval. The limitation text commits to a site plan, includes development standards addressing setbacks, site access, landscaping, building design, and graphics provisions. Requested LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District will allow multi-unit residential development containing up to 216 units. Although the proposed development is at a higher density than the recommended by the plan, Planning Division staff note the density is comparable to other multi-unit residential developments in the vicinity. Additionally, staff note the site design to be generally appropriate, but encourage the applicant to explore opportunities to activate the open space in the northwest portion of the site with walking paths, seating, and additional landscaping. Division of Traffic Management notes that a traffic access study has been approved in conjunction with this application. Additionally, the angle of orientation of the access aisle to the trash compactor would appear to present challenges with providing service. City Department's recommendation is for approval, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
And we got to fix that trash angle. Any questions or comments? Okay, Dan, traffic?
Nothing to add to the staff report.
Okay, Kathy?
No additional comments.
And Chris?
No further comments.
Okay, is anyone here to speak regarding case number 5? Central College. Nobody's here to speak.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Shannon on behalf of the Robert Weiler Company. We worked diligently with the neighboring property owners, had 3 meetings at the Accord, and were able to engender staff support as well, and we respectfully request your approval of our request. Be happy to address any questions.
Questions, comments? Okay, I am now ready for a motion. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, please call the roll.
Taylor Woodway,
Yes.
David Carey,
Yes.
Denise Key Schenkel,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Okay, case number 6. Z22-033, 1555 McNaughton Road.
In your supplemental packet are 6 emails in opposition of the request, which are in addition to the opposition testimony received at the December 2022 DC meeting. The 7.87 acre site consists of 2 undeveloped parcels in the RRR Restricted Rural Residential District. The requested LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District was previously heard at the December 8, 2022 Development Commission meeting, where it received a recommendation of disapproval by a 3-2 vote. The applicant has reduced the number of dwelling units from 136 to 126 and revised the site layout by combining the residential building and clubhouse along with Mountain Road. These revisions are reflected in the updated limitation text and submitted site plan for this meeting's consideration. The gross density of the proposed development is 16 dwelling units per acre. North of the site are single unit dwellings in the SR Suburban Residential District. East of the site are multi-unit residential developments in the LAR12 and LARLD Limited Apartment Residential Districts. South and west of the site is a multi-unit residential development in the ARLD Apartment Residential District. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Far East Land Use Plan, which recommends very low density residential uses at this location. The plan also includes complete adoption of the Columbus Citywide Planning Policy's design guidelines. This site is located within the boundaries of the Far East Area Commission, whose recommendation on March 7, 2023 was for disapproval. The limitation text includes a maximum dwelling unit count of 126 units and supplemental development standards that address traffic access and improvements, landscaping, tree preservation, and fencing. Additionally, the text includes commitments to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan and building elevations. The requested LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District will permit a multi-unit residential development with a maximum of 126 units. While the proposal is inconsistent with the land use recommendation of the Far East Land Use Plan, Columbus Citywide Planning Policies states that large sites with a land use recommendation of very low density residential may merit support for higher density developments if the following elements are present. The proposal is consistent with C2P2 guiding principles. There are more intense uses present in the area. and the overall site design mitigates impacts on adjacent uses. Staff notes that directly south and east of the site are multi-unit residential developments zoned in the ARLD, LARLD, and LAR12 district. And the plan recommends medium to high density residential and medium density residential land uses for those locations, all similar in density to this request. Additionally, the submitted site plan shows appropriate landscaping and screening of neighboring residential uses and demonstrates both pedestrian connectivity to the public street system north of the site and a new shared use path along Mountain Road frontage. As such, staff continues to be supportive of the increased density proposed with this LAR1 district.
Okay, any questions or comments? Dan, traffic?
Acknowledging that traffic has been a topic of conversation in this application, I have nothing to add to the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
No additional
Kathy?
comments.
Okay, and Chris, any planning?
No additional comments, but again, can answer questions.
Okay, any questions of our people, our team? Okay, is anyone here to speak regarding this application tonight? 3 people. That's 4 people.
Yeah, we have someone from the area commission.
Pardon? Okay, who's with the area commission? 1. Raise your hands again. 1, 2.
He's with the area commission.
Okay. Non-area commission, raise your hand. 1, 2. Okay, the game plan for us is the same as for city council. We have 3 people can speak in addition to the area commission. 3 minutes each. Try not to be repetitive or redundant. And we're good at listening. And you'll be timed by our staff over here. And then we will dig into what you raised and go back over it with the applicant. Okay, so you have no more than 3 speakers plus the area commission. Okay, that's perfect. And that's what you'll see if you go to city council next. Jeff, give your names for the.
Jeffrey L. Brown, with attorney for the applicant at Smith and Hale.
Joe Thomas, Metro Development.
Okay.
We believe there's at least 1 speaker here in favor.
In favor, okay. Know that too.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name again is Joe Thomas. I'm here to present our development plan for the neighborhood for you all. We understand there's been some concern about our proposed development plan. However, we listened to the feedback and made several concessions to address everyone's concerns. We've reduced the number of units. We lowered the building height along McNaughton Road, which was actually part of our original development plan, but in keeping with the development adjacent or across the street, we've decided to stick with that same building elevation, which is 2-story. We've improved the exterior construction materials, which is all natural materials along McNaughton Road. And we believe that we have found a solution that works for everyone. I also want to highlight that we've taken great care to ensure that our development fits well with the surrounding land uses. We have conducted extensive research to identify the best location for our project. We have not pursued other sites that have been closer but did not fit with our vision. We believe that our development plan is the best use of this site and will bring many benefits to the community. Our project will create jobs, provide affordable housing options, and improve property values in the surrounding area. While we understand that some may prefer alternative uses for this land, such as the single-family homes, we've evaluated that option and believe that it is not economically feasible. Our project will provide much-needed housing options while maintaining the character of the neighborhood. In conclusion, we appreciate your concerns and we've done everything to address them. We have taken great care to ensure that our development fits well within the surrounding land uses. We believe our project will provide significant benefits to the community. We hope that you will support our endeavor and thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Jeff.
If we could just, we've got some slides. Tim, might
Just look right.
hit the right. This is the zoning map, and you'll see, and there's 2 important parts to this. One, you will see on the east side, kind of the angle from the site, a zoning that we did in 2021. And that's for the same client, the same type of building, similar density, and that went through with no issues from anybody. And so when we did that, this site on the west side became available. And so we did the same thing in terms of setbacks, building type, et cetera, that we did on the east side. I guess expecting somewhat optimistically that we would have support with the same type of unit on the other side of the street. Again, looking at this map, you'll see the number of multifamily developments that exist surrounding this site to the east, across McNaughton to the south and to the west on our side of the site. And then you look at that institutional, that's a rehab center, but as you know, institutional zoning allows housing for the elderly at 17.4 units to an acre. This is the development that we did on the east side of the street, which had support from everybody. This is what we are proposing, opposed originally in December. The important thing here is that our driveway lines up with our development on the east side. That allows us to do turn lanes in both directions because we did the required traffic analysis that the city has reviewed and approved. And basically what you're going to have is two driveways that line up, and you're going to have a northbound left turn lane and a southbound left turn lane. You notice in terms of what we did with this layout is setback from the single family homes. Those are garages there. And we had the 1-2-story building out along McNaughton at the northeast corner of the site. When we decided to see what we could do and reconfigure, we eliminated that building. And we reconfigured the clubhouse so that it's a clubhouse combination multifamily building, still 2 stories. But again, you see the increase in open space from the property to the north, which is single family. Again, we have trees that we're maintaining. We have garages along there. The other access, the city is requiring us to extend Yorkland Road. You see that cul-de-sac. The little red lines that you see in the driveway are gates. We will use that access only for emergency access. But the city is requiring us to extend and do that cul-de-sac because they do not like to have dead-end streets because of issues with the fire department. So we have a single access that lines up with our access on the other side of the street. That is just a comparison of the old on the left, the new on the right. 10 fewer units allowed us to remove that building at the corner. I don't know. Daniel can explain this, but this is the road construction drawing that they required us to do. Our buildings, you've seen these buildings before. The neighbors kept saying, why aren't you doing single family? So we took that seriously and looked at it. That is a single family lot layout. When you do the construction cost and everything and the land, what you end up with is a house cost that's approximately $441,000 a lot, a house. Excuse me, it's a house. This you see is in Reynoldsburg, brand new development, brand new homes by a production builder. You see that at $370,000. This is $379,000. So in terms of what's being built new in the area, you're talking about prices that are $62,000 to $71,000 under what it would cost to do the single family on our property. So we don't think that's a viable option. There are a couple slides here that Michael Wilkhouse, who's the Senior VP with Community Input with United Way, he did, along with several city officials, go out on the east side and do a presentation to talk about housing and the importance of that. And Joe went to that meeting and was so impressed we've included several of those slides just to talk about the world. You see the population increase and the numbers, 118,000 increase in the 10-year period shown there. That's a 15% increase. This is what shocks me because prior to us, we did a lot of annexations and growing the city. In that time period, the city grew 1.5% in land area, but 119,000 more people were within the city limits. Again, growth, 44 people more a day. 1,337 more a month, over 16,000 a year. This was what I thought was very interesting in terms of what Michael dealt in. Talks about the net growth was due to diversity both within the city and within the county. He had picked out, because he was doing a presentation on the Greater East Side, showing the numbers in terms of the diversity change and what happened. 13.5% increase in overall population, and then you can see the individual increases in the various ethnic populations for the Near East, the Greater East Side. Housing stock, again, you have more people. What do you do with the units? Units have gone up 8%. Vacant units have gone down 36%. Number of occupied 12.7 increase, and the population increased 13.5. The end result of this is you need more housing. Big year for construction, but at the end of it, we still need 14,000 units annually. You need 19,000 annually to catch up with the deficit that we're talking about. Affordable housing, that's what we're all talking about. This is something that my client is doing without any tax abatement or anything. Their typical project is affordable housing, working people in terms of being able to rent. You see what's happening with the loss of units and the increases in prices. That's the rent. Fewer units, higher prices, the demand is increasing. Again, less units. We've got a lower occupant or vacancy rate than San Francisco. I believe that's what that says there. This is what he just did, a conclusion from the census, which is telling you, and I think you've all seen, 2050 and everything. We're growing. We have more people coming here. We've got more economic development. We need more houses, both single family and multifamily units to serve our growing population. So this is kind of frightening. 3.15 million by 2050. So the question is, where are all these people going to go? And we think in terms of this location with the surrounding zoning pattern, multifamily is appropriate with the things that we have done in terms of the setback, orientation of the buildings, dropping that building at the northeast corner, having all the internal connections in terms of pathways that planning has asked for. You saw in the staff report that planning is supporting the increased density over the area plan because we've done the C2, P2 policy requirements and other things that they asked us to make this an appropriate location. So if it was good on the east side of the street, it ought to be appropriate on the west side of the street. And we hope for your support now that we've reduced the density to come back to you with this revised proposal. Yeah, in terms of, I know there's been, McNaughton has been a lightning bolt in terms of interest and opposition, but if you see at the top, that was the one that was just south of Broad Street. And you can see where we're talking about. We are just north of Livingston at the other end of McNaughton Road.
Okay, great presentation. Let's have the area commission. We'll call you back for any questions we have. Area commission first.
Jennifer Chamberlain with I'm chair of the Far East Area Commission.
Okay.
A couple things I wanted to point out. I do thank both the individuals for presenting multiple times to the commission. I think it's a nice looking project that I don't have a problem with at all, and I don't think any of the other commissioners did as well. But we are going back to a past engineering traffic study that was done on McNaughton Road 20 some years ago. And at that point, it was cited in the traffic study that there were major problems with traffic and safety for McNaughton Road, as it was a major connector between Livingston and Broad. So already back then, it was cited as a major concern. And since then, there was a child that was struck by 2 different vehicles on the road when crossing it and was killed, which in a sense proved the engineering study to be a serious concern. And at this time, the commission does not feel it is appropriate to consider increasing the density on the road until something is done. And the developer has originally, this is going from the lowest density residential, and he is suggesting the second highest. And with the revision, it still falls in that. We would be open to something lower. Would love to see under 10, even under 6, but it came back and not much of a change. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Who would like to be the first speaker in opposition?
Hi, I'm Sue Knoblaw, and I live in Scotland Yard condominiums on McNaughton Road. McNaughton Road is it's less than a half-mile long. We have housing development that has 73 units. We have 3 condo complexes with 490 units. We have 6 apartment complexes with 756 units. This includes Walden Woods, the newest one. There are about 60 doubles split between the north end and the south end of our section of McNaughton. There is a nursing home, rehab center between the Scotland Yard and the houses. The 2020 census, so nervous, excuse me, indicated we had 3,000 people living in this area, and the number could be higher now. There was a traffic study that we came across that was done in 2019, and South McNaughton averages 15,637 vehicles a day. And that's been our biggest concern. It's a 2-lane road, no sidewalks, and we have this much traffic on a daily basis. And we're going to add to it with this development. And we have vehicles like, on a regular basis, cars, trucks, school buses, delivery vehicles, commercial vehicles like dump trucks and cement trucks. So it's very dangerous out there for anybody trying to walk up and down the road. Without any kind of sidewalks. This area is considered to have a very high population density, and adding Walden Woods and 1555 will only make it higher. We are saturated in housing in that area, other than this lot. Walden Woods should be our contribution to the housing crisis. It was built, we had no idea, we had no say, we didn't even get to talk about it. Regarding 1555, we don't want any development, and save the green space, the mature tree canopy, and that there are those who would like to protect the wildlife attracted to this lot for years. Currently, we have eagles showing up and eating out of this field.
I might have to ask you to hurry this up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Better uses for this than more apartments.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, who would like to be our next speaker? Yes, sir. Nope, the guy behind you.
What I'm handing you guys is a copy of Morpsey's traffic study, 2019. And my name is Wally Bell, I'm sorry. And I'm a resident in the subdivision as well as a representative of Yorkshire East. I'll wait till it gets all the way down. If you look at the top right, you'll notice South McNaughton, which is from Livingston to Main Street. It actually has more traffic than the northern part of McNaughton, which goes from Main to Broad Street. Believe it or not, we actually have more traffic than North Bixby. We have more traffic than Bryce Road. We also have as much traffic as Livingston Avenue. And I'm just trying to go through a lot of the things that were already addressed. In terms of accidents, yes, we had a child that was killed on North McNaughton. We just had a fatality within the last 3 weeks on our southern part of McNaughton. We also had a fatality at the intersection of Livingston and McNaughton. So traffic is a huge, major concern. We actually have more traffic than Bryce Road between Main and Livingston. We have no lights, no sidewalks. We have no signals and no no curbs, nothing. I didn't bring them because of the time, but we have photos and videos of students that are walking along the street, as you folks well know. Now, moving on, and I'm speaking not only for myself and Yorkshire East, I'm joining also the townhomes at McNaughton, Sussex Square, McNaughton Woods, McNaughton Plaza, Oak Village, Scotland Yard, which you just heard from her, and the Rock Glen and Quarry Ridge subdivision, or the subdivision in opposition to this development proposal. McNaughton Road is a critical corridor, like I said before, for emergency services, particularly to Mount Carmel Hospital. Both Columbus EMS that we talked to, as well as Reynoldsburg, while they can't officially say anything, they did say that it would be a negative impact on response time as well as patient transport. We also talked to the nursing home that sits in our subdivision. They do have an official opposition to this. They believe that it will have a very negative impact to the elderly folks that are in the nursing home. They said they run more than 30 emergency calls a month to the nursing home and more than 100 transportation runs to and from the nursing home to different ones. Needless to say, they believe that the development would again negatively impact the area. I want to jump to density real fast. The 1550 development, we talked about it before earlier, that the density was 16.01 per acre, and previously was 17.3. What they're doing by just dropping 10 units, which if I came in here with you guys for 10 units, I'd have to go through the whole process. This project is so big that they lopped off 10 units. It's less than 1% of a reduction to this entire development project. And the rest of it is just moving deck chairs around and a little movement of the swimming pool and the rec center.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, thank you. We'll have our third speaker.
He's our speaker.
Oh, he's your speaker, okay. Yes, sir. Different color jersey.
I'm Skip Dodson, president of the Eastwood Villas Condominium Association, and I've been helping lead this effort to oppose apartments for about 3 years. You have prepared remarks that I were going to make, but I have to respond to the developer's comments that he made. So please look at those comments in addition to listening to what I have to say. Number one, his proposal across the street that was approved several years ago, the community never received any notice about that project. Therefore, that's the reason nobody was here to oppose it. Two, this is one developer's cost estimate of single-family housing. There are other cost developers' estimates. Just north of Eastwood Villas on the north end of McNaughton Road, there's a 24-unit condominium project going in right this minute. Those are all single-family homes. Single-family homes are feasible in this neighborhood. Eastwoodville, or the McNaughton corridor, is a predominantly single-family home development with homes ranging from 150,000 to 700,000. It's a diverse population. The city of Cleveland, or city of Columbus, needs 16,000 new development units a year. A substantial portion of those elements need to be single-family housing. If the city of Columbus is going to find places for single-family housing, where are you going to put them if you don't put them in a single-family housing neighborhood? If you allow this site to be developed by a developer with apartments, you're squandering the opportunity for the city to have viable, prime, single-family home development sites that can be developed in the future. This commission disapproved this proposal several months ago. It is our recommendation that you disapprove this proposal again, and that you reinforce the community and the Far East Area Commission who disapproved this by a 7-0 vote. Please support your community, support the Far East Area Commission, and provide a substantial inventory of available development sites for the city of Columbus to develop single-family homes, which they are going to sorely need in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our last speaker.
Hello, my name is Delancey Dean. I moved into Waldron Woods about 4 months ago. I was looking for an apartment. All the apartments had waiting lists, and they don't look as good as Waldron Woods. So I moved in there. I was like the third or fourth person that moved in. I live in the front, so I get to see the traffic. The traffic is not bad at all. I mean, it's not really bad. I mean, there's not many people walking because you're not walking anywhere. Down at the end, you have the Family Dollar, and that's where most of the traffic is walking, and those are the apartments that are in front. I live right across from the development, and those apartments are needed because you have people moving from all over the country to Ohio because of the jobs that are here. I've talked to a lady that was in an apartment that moved up from Florida. She said there's no jobs in Florida, all the jobs are in Ohio. So most of the people that are moving in, they're not being put on a waiting list because the apartments are available, and hardworking people really appreciate new construction, something that you can be proud of. And I'm very happy where I live at. And the only time you get a bottleneck traffic over there is when the school bus stops for the kids to let out. And after that, the traffic runs smooth. It'll be very, beneficiary for the city to have those apartments there because people are moving here every day. And a lot of apartments are already booked to capacity and having those extra units is gonna be great for the city because the city is growing every day. And Cultural Woods definitely did a great job on landscaping. It's beautiful, very proud, and we need more apartment units. People are coming here by the drove because Ohio is such a great city and it's a great place to raise your family, and they're coming. Ohio is attractive to a lot of people. So it's very beneficiary to put in these new apartments so people can have a place to stay that they're proud of. And they did a great job with the development.
Okay, thank you very much. Gentlemen, come back to the microphone.
Tim, could you put up the zoning map?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, about to go back. You can
All
do
right,
this first, sorry.
You know, the question in front of you is what's an appropriate land use for this piece of property? And I think if you just look at the zoning map here, you see ARLD to the south and to the west. You see the I institutional, as I indicated, allows housing for the elderly. And you see multifamily across the street. And so we look at this as an opportunity in terms of providing more affordable housing. We worked with the planning staff. We knew what they wanted to see because we had the same conversation when we went and got the project approved on the east side of the street. So we have done what planning asked us to do to justify the increase in the density. And actually, now that we're at 16, we're actually below what the property is zoned to the south of us. So we think this is appropriate land use. We've done what we were asked to do. Our single family numbers, I'm very comfortable with Joe Thomas. They do construction numbers all the time. They've talked to single family developers in terms of the product. And all we were trying to do is, you know, do what the neighbors said. We looked at that and the numbers don't work out in terms of new houses being built versus what you would have to get for the lots on this piece of property. Traffic, I understand. You know, I've been doing this for a few years now, and we've always talked about McNaughton. I was involved with Mount Carmel on East Broad Street, where the city says that they were going to widen East Broad and the McNaughton intersection. I agree with the neighbors, it takes too long. But this one developer can't solve that problem. What this developer's responsibility is to meet the city requirements when it comes to traffic. We did that. We did the study, the city approved it. We are doing the improvements that are associated with our development. We are putting in sidewalks. Now, the sidewalks don't go anywhere, but they're a start. And the good thing is our development lines up with the development across the street, so you get turn lanes in both directions. The problem, as you all know, on a 2-lane road is when somebody wants to make a left turn, the world comes to a stop. At least in this portion of the roadway, we'll have left turn lanes for those people to be able to get out, make the turn, and McNaughton will be able to continue to flow. But the question to us is what's an appropriate land use? I think you can look at the map and see the staff report. We've done all the right things for this project to be approved.
Can I respond to that, please?
No, can I, let me ask you a question. What's your rent rate range at the
Okay, so
place across the
real
street?
quick, our rents are from $1,200 to $1,800. If you really do the quick math, the economic of that is you can earn a salary of $36,000 to roughly $68,000 to be able to afford that rent in this Walden Woods and or the new development. If a single family home is built in this area,
I do have a question. Yeah, I was gonna ask, is that 30%?
36,000, correct?
In terms of the rent, is that 30% of the annual income?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, that's what we wanted to understand.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's roughly
And
18,
and importantly,
$18 or $19 an hour is where it comes out. At the high end, if you're into the larger unit, which is our 3-bedroom unit, you know, your salaries or your hourly rates roughly either combined effort of $30 an hour. So it goes from a $17 an hour job to a $30 an hour job of combined. Of course, the 3-bedroom unit anticipates going to have minimum of a couple with dual incomes. Our 3-bedroom units are usually set apart because we have an opportunity to have an office in that unit itself rather than a third person. Everybody's tends to work from home nowadays and they need that extra space. So now we've decided to produce extra space in these units for an extra office space. So a couple living at home, both possibly working at home. Someone has, of course, the ability to have an office in the third bedroom and or an office in the living room as well. So they're not competing with each other for office space.
Did you say how many 3-bedrooms you have?
10%, so roughly 12. The economics of a single family home in this area, the average salary has to be $108,000.
Plus a down payment.
Plus a down payment.
But there
So,
is, I mean, you're presenting it as a dichotomy, and it's not, right? So there's something between a single-family home and.
oh no, I don't disagree.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Right, I mean, what we
Yeah, I'm
were
just-
trying to do is, someone said, well, why aren't you building single family? So we did the exercise of running the numbers.
Yes.
And actually, it is not a 1% decrease in density, it's a 7% decrease when we remove the 10 units.
I've been in real estate, and I know Jeff's been in real estate longer than myself, but I've been doing this for 30 years. Our company does sell property at MI Homes, Pulte, Rockford, DR Horton. A lot of these developers also produce a townhome product nowadays. Everybody's trying to hit a price point that's affordable, even on the single family home side. We try to hit a price point that's affordable on the multifamily. If you look at any of our developments, we're workforce housing. We're not a type A apartment. We're not a luxury apartment. We meet the needs for basically a larger percentage of the population in Central Ohio. People can move into our units and be able to afford to buy a car, pay for their education, buy food. Whereas if you live in a larger apartment and you live in a single family home, you start stressing this economics to where you're only paying the mortgage. You're not able to pay down your student loan. You're not able to pay down for a new car, loan. So it's what we try to produce is something that's affordable and reasonable price that fits the mold of Central Ohio, and people could live in this place for a very medium income, as opposed to a single family home. The dichotomy is, I know the answer. I've roughly built about 12,000 townhome and ranch condominiums in my career as well. Understand there's different processes and different product out there that can be for sale and or a multifamily for sale product. So I understand, but if you look at this from a for sale product, the ability for that product, and it's not very large. It's a 7-acre site. There's not a lot of product you can offer here. And when you start offering smaller developments, a smaller number of units, then you start cutting all your amenities. And now your client that lives there, either be it a home buyer or a new apartment resident, there's no amenities when you start cutting density. This is all about life. This is all about people living in these units and how they can enjoy their apartments or how they can enjoy their home. Our goal as developers is to build amenities, to be able to make people want to stay in our community. It's not about renting them the first time. Our goal is to keep people in the homes for 10, 15 years. So it's always a continued effort on our behalf to make the best possible, resident experience for our people. And we consider, friends and family as well. So I lived in our apartments in the past. I've lived in a multifamily we built in the past as a home buyer, and I've bought and lived in the house that we built also. So thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I think your site plan speaks to an improvement from what you had the last time we saw your work. So any other questions or comments?
Is there any public transit access within proximity to this site? They're shaking their heads behind you.
Yeah, the closest location is, of course, Main Street or Livingston.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? Okay, I think we've seen this before. We've seen the changes and adjustments. Our job is to select whether or not this is a reasonable use, an appropriate use for this property. And I wish we could do more, but that's our job. I need a motion to vote.
I move to
John?
call this to a vote.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, please call the roll.
David Carey,
No.
Jadeski Shanklin,
No.
Maria Conroy,
No.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingerson,
Yes.
Sam Woodway.
I'm going to say no, for one singular reason. The traffic issue, I think, is a serious one, because last time when this was here, the question was asked if McNaughton is a drop zone for students from their buses, and the answer was yes. And because of the recent accident that happened a few months ago, and that issue has not been resolved, I think I'm gonna appeal to the neighbors. You may have to take your case to the mayor's office, that they have to address the traffic issue on McNaughton, because this is gonna keep coming up. But having said that, my vote is no.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
I'm going to vote yes. I voted yes the last time. I don't think one project can solve all these traffic problems, and I think it's a desirable place. It's between Mount Carmel East Hospital and the Route 70 interchange. It's bound to be full of traffic at peak moments, but I think this use is a reasonable use in a reasonable location. So my vote is yes.
Thank you for your time and consideration again.
Okay, the vote is 4 no, 3 yes.
Thank you.
Okay, case number 7. We do. Z22-078, 5860 Roche Drive.
The 2.48 acre site consists of one parcel developed with a bowling alley in the C4 commercial district. The requested ARO apartment office district will permit a multi-unit development intended for senior housing at this location. To the north of the site is an office building in C4 commercial district. To the south is a multi-unit residential development in the AR1 apartment residential district. To the west is a multi-unit development in the LAR4 limited apartment residential district. To the east is right-of-way for Interstate 71. Concurrent CV 22-103 has been filed and includes a variance to reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is within the planning area of the Northland 1 area plan, which recommends commercial community land uses at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northland Community Council, whose recommendation of approval is conditioned upon the applicant providing written documentation that the neighboring property would accommodate some amount of parking overflow. The requested ARO apartment residential district will permit a multi-unit residential development. While the Northland 1 area plan includes a recommendation for commercial community land uses, staff support the requested ARO district as it permits both multi-unit residential development and limited commercial uses, and is consistent with the plan's design guidelines and compatible with the density and residential developments in the surrounding area. Therefore, City Department's recommendations for approval.
Questions, comments? Dan, traffic.
We have no comments on this rezoning application.
Kathy, are you thrilled with this?
We have no comments.
No comment. I'll go with that.
Planning no further comments, please.
Okay, is anyone here to speak regarding this besides David? Okay. Would you like to add anything to the staff's presentation?
Matt Beerline, National Church Residences, on behalf of the applicant. I will add one thing, and it won't technically be before you, but we did make this commitment to Dave and the Area Commission that we would cap the number of units at 145 units. And that is, or will be captured as a part of the CD, as opposed to the rezone. But
okay,
happy to answer any questions.
Can we put that in an adjustment to the presentation, to the application?
Certainly, if you would like to. I mean, it's a commitment we've made, and the text is already prepared.
The text has already got that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it won't be finalized until after this meeting, so that's why it wouldn't have been before you.
We're
Dave would have brought it up, so I just want to make sure.
Well, you don't get any faster. All right, David, come on.
Chair, this is unrestricted district though, so that commitment's with the council variance, so it's not,
Yeah.
not with the zone.
Council variance?
Yeah, there's a concurrent council variance.
You realize that the only application, our entire agenda tonight, that did not have a council variance was the one we just heard. It took almost an hour.
Yes, sir. Well, I also heard you say you were kind of worried about how fast things were going, so you jinxed yourself.
I was able to catch my breath. You're a man of detail.
Dave Paul with the Northern Community Council. As Kelsey pointed out, actually our condition on recommendation of approval pertained to the council variance because it was related to the parking, not to the zoning. But that was a condition of our committee's support for the application as a whole. I did see Tim kind of nodding his head going, can't do that in terms of requiring a letter from adjoining property. I'll perhaps work with him outside this meeting to talk about that. But I will say that our committee, after having met with the applicant on 2 separate occasions, we last met on March 29th. And at that meeting, we did recommend approval 14-2 with the condition that's been mentioned. And I believe that condition has been, at least from our perspective, fulfilled.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Oh, as always, you get down to the details and get it done.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You're all set?
Yes.
Okay, do we have any comments or questions? Okay, and you have the 45 locked down? You don't need a motion for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a part of this rezoning, so it's not really necessary.
Okay, motion to vote.
I move to vote on this issue.
Second.
Okay, second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, please vote.
Denise D. Shanklin,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Pam Wukwe,
Yes.
David Carey. Yes. Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes. Okay, motion, your application is approved.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, consideration.
Like these 3-minute sessions after the last one. Okay, we are adjourned.
Except for the form.
Yeah, we need to sign.